Hey all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to Wrestlesode. Today we are talking with the Lion Warrior, Bobby Sharp. Now, Bobby has been around the Alberta scene for a very long time. He is so smooth and solid, and seriously in great shape. A year ago, he had a hip replacement, and you would never know. I saw 2 of his matches over the last week, and they were absolute fire. He's in such good condition, and that comes obviously from his years of training and his experience, and the fact that he's just freaking awesome. Anyways, so I can't wait to bring you that interview here today, but if you are listening to this on Tuesday, August 30th, tonight, over at twitch.tv/Jupiter Vision at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, we're going to be interviewing Lumberjack Larry Wood, somebody who I've been dying to get onto this podcast for a very long time. Actually, pretty much anybody who I have not had a chance to interview at this point, I've been dying to get for years at this point, because I've been doing this for so long. But anyways, I'm super excited to bring you that interview tonight with Lumberjack Larry Woods. But for today, if you do want to hear more, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you like the content here. Leave a comment about somebody who you would love to see interviewed, and I would love to interview them. Anyways, that does it for me right now. Let's go straight into our interview with the Lion Warrior, Bobby Sharp. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Great to be here. It's a pleasure to finally be able to speak to you, actually. Other than just hello and goodbye or anything.
Right. I was saying, I feel so bad, right? Because, I broke into the business here. Like I broke into the business because I'm so popular, right? I came in as a fan, right? I just came in, just enjoyed the product. You were at my first ever PWA show that I ever went to. Back in the day, you were teaming with Michael Allen and Richard Clark as a team of Body Break.
Oh.
I remember that. You and Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and I believe Hal Johnson and Diane McLeod were there also, which is...
Of course.
So I also want to apologize. It's taken too long to ask you for this interview. I always say that nowadays because I'm into this, 4 years at this point, and I'm still just getting around to things. I'm the worst.
That's all good. I really wasn't, for a couple years, doing these interviews kind of just due to the nature of what I was dealing with, so...
Right.
Once I got better, I decided to reach out. I believe I started reaching out to all the popular ones and the ones that I've heard of that have my friends on and stuff. So I was like, it's about time I actually start doing these now that I'm a little bit more secure and returning to wrestling.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've been back now for a couple, almost about a month and almost 2 months now, right? Almost 2 months.
I've had 2 months. I've had 25 matches since I've been back.
Jeez. Okay, well those all haven't been recorded on your cage match or anything like that. How have those 25? Yeah, how's your 25 matches been?
Majority of them have been great. Some of them have been what they've been, but the majority of them have been great. I mean, because we're wrestling outside in fair shows, so guys know that you're having multiple matches in a day. So how can you? But still, they're still matches. They're still experience, and my body's felt pretty good actually. That's the most surprising thing is that when I came back, I sort of hit the ground running because I wasn't going to have this many matches this quickly, but because those shows popped up, I mean, it ends up being 15 shows, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're obviously doing really well. I guess we should tell people that you just came back from a surgery. It was a hip surgery. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was a hip surgery.
Yep.
And that you had that July of last year, if I'm also correct. If that was
the anniversary was July 29th. July 29th is the anniversary of when they put me under and I did the surgery. So that's only about a week ago, so I'm just over 365 days, 362 days, or 60 whatever days since the surgery. And I came back in 11 months, so I thought that was pretty impressive.
That's really good. It's not like you just, had a tear of a muscle or something. You had a whole piece of bone totally replaced, right?
Yeah. I don't know what the actual name of the bone is, but basically the hip socket, if you know what a hip replacement is, now it's not titanium, it's a different type of material. But yeah, it's a completely false hip in the socket. They cleaned up the arthritis. Basically, I don't have arthritis in my hip anymore, which is a really crazy good feeling. Because that's something else that's just like a nagging. It's not an injury; it just nags and nags and nags. So they cleaned that up. The fuse to the bone, I'm told, very well. So that part was pretty. I was pretty lucky. I was able to supplement and do the right things to prepare myself. So I mean. Yeah, I just have a big gnarly scar down my leg.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a way better. I would rather have a scar and still be able to use my hip. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know what it's like. So we got to start all the way back because, like you said, this is one of our first conversations. Mm-hmm. I'm Anthony, by the way. It's nice to meet you. But
yeah, hey Anthony.
But so how did it all start for Bobby Sharp? Because as far as I know, you have one of the earliest matches in terms of people, in terms of an age, having an official match in Alberta. I believe you were 14, if I remember all my stuff correctly. Mm-hmm. So that was what, 19 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, it was 2003 was my first official match, so I was 14. in Edmonton, and then for the next 4 years, I continuously wrestled on and off all throughout Alberta and Manitoba. So yeah,
That's insane. I gotta say, congratulations, by the way, because like now, like you said, you've been doing it for this long. I'm sure we've got a lot of stories to pull out of you, so I'm super excited for this. But let's start all the way back at the beginning. How did Bobby Sharp get into the world of wrestling? Did you watch it a lot growing up? Like, how did it start in your life?
Well, it was something that my family watched. My sister was really into wrestling, so you're talking mid '90s. WWF was the type of thing that we would watch. And when I was younger, it was all just casual. It's funny because like a lot of people will have moments and specific things in wrestling that really drew them to it. It was just because it was always on. I had my favorites, and I watched more and more and more. End of 1999, when it was at its height of popularity, obviously I watched all the time, and then it became cool to say you're a wrestling fan. But what really got me more into it was that I was in grade 6, so like this is still pretty early in my life. I was in grade 6, and I didn't have too many friends at school, but wrestling was a way for me to meet people, actually. So then that's how I was able to connect with a couple people through school. And so another guy I met, his name is Brady Roberts. He's finished wrestling now, but he does acting and stuff right now in Vancouver.
Right.
But his dad was a referee for a local company, and I had met him just through, like, we were both wrestling fans from Sherwood Park, just outside Edmonton. So we both thought it was kind of a unique experience. So we met up, and his dad was a referee for a local company, and the local company, I guess, looking back, they saw it as me and my group of friends, even though we were all like 12 and 13, I think maybe Brady was 14. They saw it as like an opportunity that we would train with each other. They could make a couple extra bucks, and we would get the chance to wrestle. And that's kind of what made me think like, oh, now that I get the chance to actually do this, maybe I should pay more attention to the actual sports side. And once I started doing it, made me like it more. And then I was like, now that I'm doing it, even if it was limited, I started enjoying it more. When I started watching it, it was a different type of watch for me, but it was more enjoyable, actually. I appreciated it more, and I liked the wrestling more, because before you would just watch maybe the promos and the packages, but now I like the wrestling. It just kind of grew from there, because then 20 years of my life has been pretty much involved with wrestling.
That is such a cool story, because I believe we're about the same age. I might have a couple of months on you, but like very similar story. Like grade 6 especially, I remember being like the height of my love of wrestling as a kid, right? Like going out on the playground, everybody's doing crotch chops. It was just like a part of the culture at the time, right? Everybody was a part of a backyard wrestling league. So that's amazing. Who did you really gravitate towards? Like, who were some of your favorites at the time?
For wrestlers, Triple H was my absolute favorite. I think you could actually even see me mimic things that I do in the ring just straight from him. So other guys, so I had like 5, and he was 1. I always liked like the Canadians, like Chris Jericho and Christian,
right?
William Regal. So those were my absolute favorites when I was a kid. And I know a lot of people are surprised when I say Regal, but even in 2000, he was one of my favorite bad guys.
Oh, he's one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Absolute beast.
Yeah, what I liked about him was because this is just a completely random story. I hated WCW when I was younger. I didn't like it. And then I saw him wrestle Bill Goldberg, and I loved how he beat the crap out of Bill Goldberg. And I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. He's going to be like my favorite wrestler ever. And that was the match that got him fired, or however the story went. He was fired 2 weeks later or something. But that was that Heat match that Regal got in trouble for. And then I always remembered him. And so when I seen him in WWF, I was like, oh, man, he's back, kind of thing. And so I always thought that was kind of funny, looking back at the story, saying that this match caused all this controversy, and ended up, as a fan, I watched it and thought it was the greatest match I'd ever seen.
I just find it's so funny just how similar we were, because I also grew up hating WCW, which is weird because I say this as like a wrestling podcast. People grow up, they love WCW. There was a lot of great WCW at the time. But when I was a kid, WCW was WWF's competitor, and I was a loyal WWF kid, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I want to like people like Sting. Like, I want to like them, but no, they're part of a video game that I refuse to play on my N64 because I have WrestleMania 2000. I assume that's very similar to you then.
Oh, exactly, because I mean, like, I never watched, because we're talking 1988 when I would have been 10, 9. You know, I wasn't watching it for work rate. You know, like, even to think about, when you mentioned the video game, I cannot remember, I should say, the WCW video game, but my sister rented it, and it was for N64, and you could go through the profiles, and that was the first time I ever saw Chris Benoit, because I saw there was a guy from Edmonton. I was like, oh, okay, and that kind of drew me to those guys. That's funny to think that Regal and I had randomly saw, and then the first time I ever heard of Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho was from the video game.
Right.
Never seen them on TV, because also I guess I never had Turner cable, so anytime I watched WCW, it was like at a friend's house or something else. So it was just like, yeah, it was just like, oh, this is the bad WWF.
This is the lower
So, yeah.
production. Everything's too
Yeah.
dark WWF.
Looking back on it, I miss it. I love watching it now.
Oh yeah, now as an adult, I've learned to respect WCW in the late '90s like so much more, because honestly, for a long time there, they were much better than WWF. But God, we were stubborn kids, weren't we?
Yeah, and I never was able to watch it, so I will chalk it up to that, you know.
So you start training, you're 14 years old, you've kind of moved into like a very fun echelon, because like every kid says, oh, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a wrestler. You're 14. 14-year-olds still aren't really wrestling. But I mean, this is, of course, you know, like, let's see, 2003, 2004, like you were saying when you were training. So like, how did it change you as like a kid, like, right? Because like 14-year-olds, like, you know, you have a hard time talking to girls, right? Like you're having trouble with math class. You're not putting on like a promo and destroying somebody in a ring, right? Like did it help build your confidence as a kid?
It's kind of like goes hand in hand, you know, like totally wrestling as far as building my confidence, 100%. If you knew who I was, or even who I am, even when like this period of COVID, when people were isolated inside, how introverted I become, especially when that's all I do. So wrestling drew that out of me and made me more like, would not take chance or risks, but like would be more willing to go out there. And I felt more energized to talk to people, blah, blah, blah. So wrestling definitely drew that over time. When I was breaking into the business, I was shielded from a lot of stuff, especially looking back on it now and considering what I know looking back, like things like, you know, guys would hide drug use and stuff like that, but it was blatantly obvious, especially looking
back in the day, especially.
Oh yeah, and this is like 2003 and 4 and 5. So I mean, this was pre even like Eddie passing away.
Yeah,
which is when things were
everything changed. Yeah,
and it didn't change immediately around here. But I mean, like, so I wouldn't say like, and then like I guess just being around grown men. See, that's another thing, is that like I was 14 and there was another guy named Brady. I talked about him earlier. He was 16, and our other friend Tom was 16, and there were a couple other guys. And this was not long before. Big Jess, and he was like 15, 16. So there were 4 or 5 of us, and then Heavy Metal joined a little bit later, 15, 16 as well. So there were about 5 of us that were friends, but like 30 or 40 other people that were grown adults, you know. So you see that side of it all too. You see how like Massive, the guy that trained us, really tried to keep his locker room clean for that kind of stuff. But when we went on the road, we would see so many, like, trying to think of what I can't say. Like, okay,
here's some of those juicy stories we were talking about.
I wasn't here for this, but one of the very first stories is this like PG-13 or anything?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. This is fun.
One of the first stories I ever heard, like I was 14 or 13 or something, was that there was a girl in Winnipeg that got naked in the locker room. So the boys shook a bottle of wine, put it inside her, and let the wine explode, and it spilled all over the floor or whatever. This is like one of the first stories, and then we went in more detail and stuff. Who knows if it happened or didn't happen, because guys always bullshit.
Right.
But this is one of the first stories.
This is what you're coming into the business with, right?
One of the first stories I ever heard about like locker room stuff. Yeah, don't know if I was supposed to hear it, but I heard it. So
would you say locker rooms these days a lot better, a lot easier to be in?
Yeah, there's not that kind of stuff. This doesn't really. I laugh, but it's really not that funny.
No, it's really not. I mean, like, poor lady, right? But I mean,
that kind of stuff doesn't really. I don't even say doesn't really. It shouldn't. It shouldn't happen. There's so many. I don't know. There's so many other ways you can have fun in the locker room that don't involve,
Uno apparently is a favorite around Alberta right now. Apparently, they have these giant Uno fights in the backyards.
I like shuffleboard myself, to be perfectly honest.
I did see a picture recently. It was you and Metal. Was it you and Metal playing shuffleboard?
Metal, yeah. Playing shuffleboard. Yep.
What a great picture, by the way. Those are the kind of pictures that like just prove how awesome wrestling, especially is these days, right?
Yeah, I have way more. I'm actually having the most fun. Like, there's times and tours and stuff in the past that were fun, but I'm having the most fun now, like, consistently, that I've had in a long time. So I'd say like things have definitely gotten better for everybody.
Well, so okay, so you start wrestling, you're 14 now, you've gone through your first couple of years as a wrestler. How do you feel like you've evolved as a character? When did Bobby Sharp become Bobby Sharp?
I've really never. It took a long time to even figure myself, and sometimes I don't think I quite know. You'll notice days that I'm more confident that who I want to be, and then other days I kind of hide behind a mask, I suppose. But it was an ongoing process. It didn't happen, obviously, not overnight. What actually going on wrestling tours, like getting the chance to wrestle more than once a month, made that happen. So going on like the Tony Candello Death Tour, 2005 and stuff, and then you wrestle for 6 weeks on the road, that kind of stuff made me become, who I am as a person and the character I am and blah, blah, blah. Because even though like wrestling is what it is and you play characters in the ring, I do know that like how I feel in the ring and the confidence I gain and then working out and stuff also defines me as a person. So tours like that define me. I'm the type of person that I like being on the road. I like being on the road consistently type, I guess. I really miss it. It's funny to think that when you're on the road, you don't miss it. You wish you were home, but anytime I'm home, I wish I was on the road more. So like my idea of a dream would be being able not to work and then just wrestle 7 days a week or twice on Saturdays, twice on Sundays.
I was going to say 8 days a week, right? Yeah, 8 days a week.
Yeah. And I've done it and it's the blast. It's what I love. And so that gave me character. Those type of things make me who I am.
So you've done the death tours. Obviously, these are very famous tours, these Tony Candello tours around Canada. How was your experience doing a death tour?
It is what you make of it. And anybody that's been on it knows full well that what makes the death tour not good isn't getting stuck in the ditch or minus 40, because that's all going to happen. Yeah. There's going to be people passing away and shows are going to be canceled. You don't know when the tour is going to end officially. It's all part of the no sleep, bring crew, blah, 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 all part of it. It's the crew that you're with. It's the people's attitudes that make a tour crummy or shitty, are good. So we've been lucky where anytime, maybe not the first couple of years, but usually when I've gone, me and Kat are involved a lot in the booking of the tours of who we actually physically bring for the most part. So Tony can bring who he wants. They're usually the weakest link. And if they're watching this, you know that. So we usually try and book like people that we know are going to be good on the road, like a guy like like Slammer or a guy like Matt Hart. Wavell is definitely one of the best, so he comes a lot.
I love Slammer. That's like I got to get him out here one of these days. I'm so sad he moved out to Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. So that's the thing is that not everybody wants to do it, but we're also not going to just take anybody to do it, because if you were on a tour when me and Kayla were there, we definitely picked you because we knew you were not a piece of crap kind of thing. So. And that's what made those tours great to me, because you're gonna.
So to explain to people what a death tour is, because I just saw that kind of in chat. Like, how would you describe a death tour?
I can't see the chat.
No, that's totally fine.
It's kind of a weird. So there's some people call it the Candello Northern Tour, which is what it should be called.
Right.
The death tour. It's called the death tour not because it's hard or because of this or that, but because when you take these northern communities, these reservations in Manitoba. And you look at the population and the percentage or the chance or the odds that it is that when Candello comes down for 3 weeks or 6 weeks out of the year in these remote areas with this population, what are the odds that somebody would actually pass away on that day? And it happens every single tour.
Is that where that nickname came from?
It became a point where a guy like Don Callis was saying, Tony, like, this is ridiculous. Like, this should be called the death tour, because every time we come up here, there's a cancellation for a death, and we're here only not that often. So if anything, it's a sign that there might be a crisis. So that's where the death tour name came from, is that it seemed to be that somebody would always pass away every time we went up there, and then the shows would be canceled.
I was always under the impression, because I was never formally told exactly like where the term death tour came from. I just thought it was because like you guys had to run so many shows so far between for so few people for so little money. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you got to do it for the love of it.
Yeah.
That's the hell tour.
That's the hell tour. The hell tour is the one. That's why I call it the hell tour, because of that. Death tour is because of the people passing. Yeah, so
I'm glad we've got that distinction. Then thank you.
Oh. Yeah, Lance Storm had a whole thing where I think it was Don Callis, but don't quote me. It could have been Lenny St. Clair that named it. But Storm has a blog on his website. If you do use the Wayback Machine, you can go check it out. He'll tell you. He'll tell you who named it.
I mean, I could believe someone like Don Callis saying something
Mm-hmm.
like that, so that totally makes sense to me. So, okay, so you've started wrestling, you've been wrestling around Alberta for a little while. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what really would you say made you stand out, like, as a wrestler? Like, what matches really define you throughout your career? Because you've been going now, like you said, since 2003, on and
Mm-hmm.
off. You've been doing so many different matches. You've had matches all around Canada at this point, by the sounds
Mm-hmm.
of it. So, like, what
Yep.
matches really define Bobby Sharp in your mind?
Oh, see, that's such a super hard question without like rambling. Because I have a lot of favorites. I have matches where I figured it out. I had a match. This one kind of stands out, which is weird. It was 2006, so it was an early one. There's no tape of it, and it was in Thunder Bay, and I wrestled a guy named All American Steve Rivers.
Oh,
And it was
Steve,
the
okay.
first, yeah, it was the first match I ever had where someone just like, I'll just call it in the ring, do what I say, and they'll react the way they should, and they did. And then it kind of was like, oh, if I do this, they do this, and if and that's where it really clicked in my mind, and I just felt amazing about it because it was like everything went smooth. It was the first match I had that we called it, and the crowd was responding the way that he told me they would respond. And I was like, wow, there's an art to this. And so that's why that match really stands out. And I wish I could find a copy of it, but whatever.
I would be amazed to see what Steve Rivers looks like circa 2006. You know what I mean?
2006. Oh yeah.
Like, completely different by the sounds of it.
Not really.
No? Very similar
No.
still to the Steve Rivers.
No.
Was he working heel at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't picture Steve Rivers ever as a face, to be completely honest.
That's when I was also the young lion, so that was a whole new thing for me too.
Is that where
also
Lion
nostalgic.
Warrior eventually came from?
Well, because you can only be young lion until you're old, right?
Right.
So I got old.
So you're calling yourself? I appreciate that, as I think of about like a year.
I kept it because at the end of the day, I'm Simba, so I'm going with it. I like it.
Simba, there you go. So Simba, Lion Warrior, big fan of. Is that like all from Lion King originally?
See, there's like a Lion Warrior show out now or something, and I swear to God, I was Lion Warrior like 10 or 12 years before they had that Lion Warrior show. But it all started because I was called Young Lion because I was growing my hair out, and they just needed something for me, and they liked it. I liked lion, so I thought, well, there's so much character you can invent with a lion type of attitude that I thought I could grow on it. And yeah, so then
I like
put
that
on my
idea.
trunks and blah blah blah, and then get rid of the hair out. I like having a beard, but Kat doesn't like the beard. But I think the beard completes the look. But right now I'm shaving for her.
There you go. You got that little soul patch though. You keep that though.
Oh yeah, that never leaves.
So I know we've had this conversation. You've got a couple of matches. I know that you say you kind of keep off to the side there, things that you can kind of refer to. I'm actually kind of curious what some of those first matches that you've actually listed up there are, because like those are the ones that are probably going to pop into your mind first. So obviously we have that 2006 match with Steve Rivers, but what other matches do you have towards that top of that list there?
So, God, like I have to admit my 2013 match with Davey Richards probably stands out because so many, like I love the match and I like wrestling him, and the fact that so something happened during the show. Well, I don't know what. He came to me and goes, "Hey man, we're really gonna have to work hard that night because this is a dog and pony show." And he walks away, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what just happened. So apparently there was a real not very good match here in Red Deer. So he's decided that he had to redeem the show. So I was like, oh crap, okay. So we went and had a crazy hard wrestling match, like a straight wrestling match, which I really like. So I have to say that match. That was from 2013. I was in Springbrook or maybe in Red Deer, but same difference there. One of my favorite, and that popped in my mind a lot because that's a match that people that saw it will mention to me. So I have a lot of people that like. Sometimes you hear fans or whatever talk about your matches. It's usually that one gets brought up a lot. So that one, I absolutely. I like wrestling Rene Dupree too, just because he's such a good friend. So we had a really good match. Here's another story from his match with him that I'll never forget. When he was out here, he was working a loop of shows. So the guys he was working before he wrestled me were all like 6'6" and 6'8".
Right.
So he would do like the Kenta thing where he would like slap your like I'm not even like chop, and kick you in the stomach, like the back kick or whatever.
Yeah.
But so he's wrestling me now. But or he'd kick you in the stomach, then he would kick you up. But he's wrestling me, so he does the thing, which all suck. Like he's just smacking you really hard, so it's not like it feels good. And you're just like able to concentrate, smack, and then kicks me in the stomach. But then for some reason he jumps back because he thought I was also 6 feet tall or 6'6". So he kicks me right in the eye and slices open my eyelid and the side of my eye. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what's happening. And all I remember after that is like once I got my bearings, I felt okay, and he's just kind of like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I thought you were 6'6". And I was like, it's like a double insult. He's apologizing, but now he's saying I'm small. So
You know, it's
the
funny
end,
that
yeah.
you consider yourself, from the way you're saying it, is that you're not 6'6", right? But when I see you in the audience, I'm like looking up to you. You feel like you're. I don't. This is completely as much of a like a compliment as I can give. Of like any wrestler who I've ever seen around the Alberta scene, you look like you have the most solid foundation. Like you don't look like there is a
Thanks.
small muscle anywhere in your body. Like you couldn't ever be pushed over. You look like that kind of guy. Do you know what I mean? So for you to say it's like, oh, I'm not 6'6", I look at you, I'm like, you looks way better than I do. So.
I just had somebody get mad at me because I was putting a match together, and I was doing that kind of stuff where I was like giving him like big man spots kind of thing, and I wasn't a big guy. I was just kind of a chunky guy. And so later, someone comes up to me and goes like, you're more impressive looking than him. I don't know why you're like doing the whole tackle. He doesn't bump. He goes like, you should be able to mow him over in 10 seconds. And I was like, oh, I guess so, but how do I approach a guy and say, like, hey, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you? And I'll be like, well, no. But,
It's still good to tell a good
things.
story at the end of the
Yeah,
day, right? Because
exactly.
like if you as a big person can work a match against a small person and still make it believable, do you know what I mean? Like that is such a great thing to be able to do. I'll give Brock Lesnar credit for this, like almost above anybody. His matches with big people, yeah, they're good, but like they're not his best. His best matches, in my opinion, were people against like AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Daniel Bryan. Do you know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
works against small guys so well, in my opinion.
I'd say like he's one of those special guys because like I'd say those matches are great, but he had probably Big Show's best matches, I would say, ever too. So that's a tough one.
There you
for
go.
me, 'cause, like,
There you
yeah,
go. Well,
yeah,
that was also like a decade ago or something like that,
yeah,
right?
I guess so. Yeah, none of his recent Big Show ones were as good as that stretcher match. And I remember that stretcher match because like Rey Mysterio got whooped into the post by Big Show as they were building to it, and just landed right on his face.
I just remembered that
Oh.
that scene. Oh my gosh, that's so great. What are some of your other favorite matches that you've had? Not that you've had, but like that you've watched and stuff, because you said you grew up a Triple H fan. You've obviously been a fan your whole life at this point because you've been wrestling.
Mhm.
So like, do you have match inspiration? Like that is my favorite match to watch, or
I wouldn't say one. I like watching like specific guys. I guess I like watching guys obviously to study, and so I'm not gonna really because I could go on and on and say matches I really enjoyed. If I want to say so, I think of also before I got into wrestling. So when I was younger, one of my favorite matches to watch on VHS tape was the 2001 Royal Rumble.
oof.
Whole thing. I watched like 15, 16 times, if
Right.
not more than that, over the course. So I always have to say that because like, hey, I did it before. So obviously there was something about that event that drew me to it as a fan. So I always kind of sometimes I go back and watch it, trying to figure out what it is. I still think it was a great show. That one really stands out because that one was kind of right about the time when I was saying like I was making friends and starting to do it a little bit. So then I would go back and watch that over and over and over as well. Yeah, I guess certain guys. I just posted about this other match I had today because I'm maybe not known for tables, ladders, and chairs matches, but I just talked about that TLC match me and Kat Von Hees had in Saskatoon in 2018. Excuse me, for HAW and Battle Arts. So it was a triple threat. Me and Kat Von Hees and Brett Evans, and that was the match where she got on Botchamania when she went to powerbomb Brett Evans off the turnbuckle, and he held on to the rope and slipped, so he fell and hit his head on the turnbuckle. It looked like he died.
I've never seen this clip. I didn't even know that Kat was on Botchamania.
She's made it on Botchamania. I like bringing that up to her sometimes.
There's a claim to fame
like,
there, right?
Yeah, she's like, it's notoriety, and I was like, at least they watch my matches. Like, oh. So that one, like, I like that one. I'm not really gonna get into the reasons backstage, but like, I like the effort that me and her really put into that match because, like, we're both the most like when you think tables, ladders, and chairs, you're not gonna think me and you're not gonna think her. So I thought we delivered in that match. That's online too, and so a lot of people seem to really enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I could just sit and like gush over myself for a little bit longer, but those ones kind of pop to mind, I guess, for matches.
What about matches that you
yeah.
would like to have still, right? I mean, Alberta's got a lot of great potential. There's, Vancouver's looking great.
Yeah.
Western Canada in general is looking great. Like, what would you love to do?
There's so many guys here now, especially because like I'm the type of guy that I like wrestling new guys. I always like having new opponents. So there's so many guys here that I haven't got the chance to wrestle or have meaningful matches. Like you said in BC as well. Actually, BC more so. There's tons of guys there that I haven't gotten the chance to really wrestle. And even if I think of guys here like Jack Pride and Mo Jabari, son of Irish. I've never had matches in Edmonton, or even like I wrestled Jack Pride at a camp show, like in front of like outside, so it wasn't really, I don't count it, but those type of matches I'd like to have because those guys I haven't wrestled. So like Rich King and like Lumberjack Larry. I've had some great runs with him, but I'd like to wrestle Lumberjack Larry in Edmonton. So guys like that. Mitch Clark as well stands out. So that's kind of another reason.
You're saying you're calling out the Rads right now, is what I'm hearing. Like the Rads are being called out.
Well, the shoe fits there, boys. I guess.
Spencer, if you're watching, listen in.
Yeah. And then I've never wrestled Stephen Crow, and I'd like to actually. Maybe some guys won't say this, but I'd like to start mixing it up with some of the girls too, because I haven't wrestled any of them in singles matches, and I think they could use a match or two.
Absolutely. Well, I'm also of the idea that intergender wrestling is great. Like, it can tell an amazing story, right? Like, it doesn't have to be, like brought down to like what people would consider its base core. It's like, oh, it's a guy versus a girl. It's just like it's two professional wrestlers. Fuck off, right?
Yeah, I see, and I like it because it's different. You can have this one-on-one match a million times, but I find like. That's why I like having triple threats with the right people, mind you. I like having triple threats because you get to be the different match on a card. If you're the intergender match, you get to be different, and it's my job as a wrestler to make logic out of wrestling. So, however I can do that without like offending people with wrestling a girl, I consider that I want to say a challenge because at this point, wrestling the girls is some of the easiest stuff. But I do consider it a challenge because I have to think outside the box. I can't just go out there and do what I would do with just anybody. But that's just the visual psychology. I wouldn't go out there and do the same thing with big guys and small guys, but that's what I like about
it's a different type of wrestler. There's a different psychology that goes behind it. There's a different story to be told. You know what I mean? It's just a different. That's what wrestling is so great for. Like, you don't really need a reason to wrestle, but you can have any reason, right? Like that's the important part, and you can tell so many different great stories, which I always think is fantastic.
The best. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. All right, a couple last quick questions here for you before we move into the Q&A section, because there's a couple of ones that I would love to get out of you here. Now,
I haven't seen any of these.
Yeah, I know. They're going to be all collected for me here as well, and then we'll have them going through. But there has been a lot of conversation in chat here. Like, it has been blowing up. So there's going to be a lot of good questions here. I know. It's going to be fantastic. Now, in terms of actual, like, professional wrestling, now I'm going to put that in quotations because professional is what you make of it, right? Like, Alberta has a professional wrestling scene. It's just people make money doing wrestling here. That's professional. But in terms of, like, the big audiences, the AEWs, the WWEs, the New Japans, like, where do you find your attention really going these days in terms of a product that you enjoy?
It's hard to say because I try to watch what I can and I try to keep up. I'll say I probably watch the local scene, BC, Alberta, and Manitoba, and Saskatchewan if they start having shows more than I do WWE and AEW. I watch Impact too more than I do the other two, but I still keep up definitely. I don't like deny it. If I hear something is good, I'll definitely check out. I just don't have the time to watch that much wrestling every single week.
There is a lot of wrestling for sure.
I watch when I can, and I keep up with my local scene, and then I get to go to all these shows that I wrestle on. I always watch the shows I'm on. You'll always find me by the curtain and stuff. So please stop pointing that out, crowd, that I'm standing by the curtain. But you always find me by the curtain trying to watch those shows because that's what I like. I've seen my friends and stuff. So to be honest, that's what I watch.
I'll drop a little secret for everybody. A lot of wrestlers are at the curtain. If you just look at the curtain, they're probably going to see a wrestler. It's probably going to happen.
It's me. It's just me. There's nobody there with me.
I think at the last Love Pro Wrestling show, I was chilling by the curtain, like during one of the matches, and like every wrestler was there. It was like me and Thickness and Rick Jules and Stephen Crow were all taking like selfies off to the side right by the curtain. It was perfect.
If you're standing, I love if you're standing at on the whatever the top row is at the LPW show and you can look over, I swear you can see all of us standing behind the curtain. Like we can see you, so I'm sure you can see us. And there's always a coalition of wrestlers just kind of hanging around there watching because we can see it in the screen too. So it's easy for us to watch there.
It's a great venue still, though. It's a lot of fun, right? Like just being able to go there, like if you want to step out of the room and go play some video games or have like a nice burger and then come back. I love that about that. Actually, Edmonton wrestling is really fun for that. Like every time I come up for Edmonton wrestling, which I've been doing more and more as of late, which is fantastic for me. Which I'll be back again in like 2.5 weeks for.
You said
Top
you're in
Talent.
Strathmore, right?
Yeah, I'm in that small town. So you wrestled in my hometown recently.
2 weekends ago, we did your little rodeo there. We had bullfight, not bull, running from the bulls.
Yeah, running with the bulls. Yeah, we're the crazy little town that does that.
I'm serious. It was running from the bulls. I'm serious.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, no, my town is a little insane. Yeah. That's where our claim to fame is.
You could buy mini donuts. You could buy pierogies. You could buy brisket. You could buy Native American jewelry, and you could watch some Can-Am wrestling, and then go run with the bulls.
Yeah,
it was a good show. It was a good little event there. I had fun.
I live close enough to it that, and I always have when I've lived in Strathmore. Like I've always lived around like the same kind of like around the rodeo grounds. So like whenever like there was fireworks or there's an announcement going on in the grandstands, like I can hear it from my house, kind of. So.
Yeah, they had commentary, so it was fantastic for me.
There you go. So you got to hear. Do you not often get to hear commentary on your own matches, kind of a thing?
You know what's funny? I sometimes when like I'll bring up LPW because I know Thaddeus and Boris and sometimes Michael on and they're doing commentary for my matches, or at least the two I've had. I don't hear them, but then every so often maybe I'll get thrown close by, and I'll hear like
just a little blur.
Yeah, just a little blur. Not I won't be able to hear what they say. And I'll kind of like look over, and it's like a reaction to look over, but then I can't hear them anymore. That's all I hear. I never. Yeah, I like watching back, and I watch back to hear the commentary sometimes, but I never hear the commentary when I'm in the ring.
When you heard it in Strathmore, because the commentator was on the big speakers and stuff, like did it guide like kind of what you were doing? Like did it change things because you're like, I can hear this?
I never really thought about that. Yeah, it kind of did. It kind of did. I'd react to how they would say things and stuff. So yeah, it did kind of change it.
So it's a different storytelling mechanism. There you go. So like that's what, once again, wrestling is fantastic because no matter what crook you throw into it, you can get something out of it.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay. Well, we should move into the Q&A section here. I'm going to give you a call back. I'll send you another link here on Twitter, and we'll move straight into the Q&A section. So we'll be back in like a minute. So if you need to run to the washroom or something, go ahead. This is the best time to do it, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, I'll call you right back. 1 second. Excuse me. I've been eating the cough for a while, but that was just stuck there, and I didn't want to do that while I was still doing that part of the interview. All right, I'm starting a new call here. We're going to move into the Q&A section. If Shout can send me off all the questions that have been collected so far, I'm really excited for this. This should be really fun. All right, participants, invite, copy, invite, link. I'm very excited to start using the new program that Mike the Ref and Backbreaker has been so gracious to let me use here starting next week. I just want to make sure that it all works perfectly for all of you before I do it. Anyways. We can 100% see everything behind the curtain from the top level. Here's the little thing I noticed. So in the very back corner of that LPW show, like in that back corner behind the curtain, there is like an above ground tent, like a big parasol that blocks off like the very corner. I think that's where everybody has to hide. Hey, buddy, welcome back.
Oh, hey. Am I back? Perfect.
I think you just have to turn your camera and then turn it back because you're sideways for some reason.
Oh.
There we go. And then, perfect. There we go. All right.
I had to turn it, I guess it would.
Perfect. All right, we're back into it here. All right, you ready for some of these questions? Because this should be really good.
Let's do it.
All right, first question from, okay, I kind of warned you that this might come, and they're just starting with it right early in this one. So, from Shadow to Cloud, how has the all-time classic movie starring Sting, Ready to Rumble, inspired your wrestling career?
Starring Sting? I'm pretty sure it was starring DDP or...
It starred a lot of people, but he always makes me do the Sting part. So.
You know... I've watched that movie like 30 times, even though I just buried WCW earlier. I love that movie. I love that movie so much. I think I watched that Macho Man like grocery store fight like
so many times
on its own so many times. Yeah. God, I can't remember the Macho Man line, but I have the DVD and there's deleted scenes or bloopers, I should say, on the DVD. It might be after the credits too, but they're on the DVD for sure. Where he punches Macho Man in the face. It's legit, I guess.
Oh, really?
So he sees him and he punches him. Oh, shit, I'm sorry, man.
God, I would hate to punch, right in the face. That would suck. Because, like, Macho Man's huge.
I also, anytime something happens in wrestling that's, like, dastardly, I make sure I go to the back. I don't know who anyone even notices when I do this, but I always walk back and go, damn Sinclair allergies. as I fake cry, and I don't know if anybody notices where it's from. Nobody sold it yet, so if you hear me say it, that's where it's from. Ready to rumble.
People, the call out has happened now. Be prepared, because this is something that you could see if you're watching. That's a great show. I also was with you. I did not like WCW growing up, but I also loved Ready to Rumble. I gave up an entire Halloween one time because I had it rented on VHS, and I was like, it was like Halloween night, and I was like, I gotta go get candy, but like I was like, but I really want to watch Ready to Rumble, so I cut my night short just so I could watch it again. So, oh Jesus, kick my desk. So totally understand. It was a great movie. Another quick question here. What is a match that you're okay? Well, we kind of already touched a little bit on this, but we'll give a new one here. What's another match that you're especially proud of? Maybe for a fun reason.
Me versus Kat Von Hees in a hair versus hair match in Saskatoon. I should have brought this one up earlier, but anyway, we were talking about intergender wrestling. So a lot of times, me and Kayla are stuck. I wouldn't say stuck together, but are put together to work programs. A lot of people, I don't know if they don't like working her, but just don't like the girl stuff. So, but I don't. I love it. So me and her had a program going in HIW, and dare I say, without sounding egotistical, I would say it was one of the best programs that they had for sure. Long-term storytelling, and so the hair versus hair was the blow off, the last one what we built to. What made it special was that her mom, or her father, her legit father, and her legit mom, and her legit grandmother, and her all drove in because they were visiting us in Winnipeg, and I went with the other guys. So they drove in on their own to watch the show. So we involved, like, there was a point in the match where, like, I went to go get a chair and I ripped it away from her grandmother. Her grandma hits me with the purse, which she didn't say she was going to do. So stuff like that. And then, like, we didn't tell them anything except her dad. We told her dad. So the referee is knocked down, so I'm going to grab the hair clippers and shave her head anyway, because that's what bad guy Bobby does.
Right.
And her dad yanks him out of my hand, and the crowd pops. And the look on his face has made it so worthwhile, because he just had, like, he's missing his teeth. So he had, like, his little grin going on because he couldn't stop smiling. Like, we told him, be serious and be angry because you should be upset. He just had a big smile on his face. I was like, oh, he's enjoying it just as much as I am. And then she cut my hair off. So it was the end of my hair. Got to do it in front of her family. I thought it was a great match. It was a lot of fun. Probably one of our best ones we ever had. And yeah, I got to do it with my wife, and so that one really stands out as something super special.
So that was like a big family ordeal then. That must have been a lot of fun. Does that one still get brought up like Christmas and stuff? He was like, hey, remember that time?
It does. Actually, Kayla loves telling this. Our Kat loves telling the story.
That's a great one to have, right? Because, like, how often can you involve, like, the family in something like that? Especially for something so important, like a hair versus hair match.
Honestly, it's better to never, but because the opportunity was there, we did. But it's better to never involve family. It's a bit of a lesson for guys breaking in. Try your best not to.
Absolutely. The next question here actually isn't a question. It's kind of just a compliment. So I'm going to read this out to you because it's very nice. So no question on this one. Just saying as a fan that I was surprised to hear about Bobby's surgery and would like to thank him for everything he's put himself through to entertain us. So that was really nice to read.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like it so much, is that so many people kind of appreciate what we do. And honestly, we don't know. So, I mean, like, if you ever see a wrestler and you thought he had a good match, just tell him that, it means the world to us. We don't hear too much.
Right? Even if you tell a heel and they're like, fuck off, and then you go in the back and they're like, that made me feel really good.
Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, I like this question here because this was also something I wanted to talk about, but we did kind of like lose a little bit on time. But to maintain your physique, you must have a really good secret recipe or two. Do you mind sharing one? Because like I had said, you were part of Body Break. You are in amazing physical condition. People like me are incredibly jealous. How do you maintain something like this?
So honestly, the trick has always been, I've thought about this a lot because that question pops up all the time. So I've worked out just as long as I've wrestled. And I'm not talking like I went to the gym for a day out of a week. I'm talking like consistently since 2004. I've definitely gotten 300 days or more to the gym every day per year, each year. So we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of workouts, thousands of trial and error. I found the only key is consistency. So if your consistency is good, you're going to get results. And if it's not, you're not going to get the results. This year alone, the moment they let me go back to the gym after my surgery, I haven't really missed. I've missed like 3 days since January. I don't go to the gym to kill myself. I know what my goals are. I work out for my goals, but yeah, consistency is what I can say is the key. Because I mean, like, this could become a fitness. Because if I explain how I do it, we're talking 30, 45 minutes of explaining how I do it.
I would be lost and super happy that entire time. I was at the gym last night. Every time I go, I feel lost. I like going to the gym. I got into the best shape of my life last year, and then I stopped going, so I'm just kind of getting back into it now. But like, I mean, gym anxiety is a real thing, especially for a lot of people. If you don't go very often, you can really start feeling like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm too scared to go touch that machine, something like that. What I think a lot of people need to hear, especially people like me, is that, hey, it's okay. You're allowed to be scared. Go at your pace. Do what you want to do. Don't feel afraid. People aren't going to be there judging you because, trust me, they're there enough judging themselves. That's why they're usually there, right? So they don't care about you.
And honestly, like, the gyms that are marketed towards that type of environment, like a Fit for Less, you're not going to enjoy going to a gym like that. You're going to go to a place like a Good Life or a local gym, especially if you're starting, because there's so many more people. And I worked at a gym for 10 years of my life or more. There's so many people that are so helpful. Like, I wouldn't annoy them, but I would ask questions. If I saw somebody doing a workout that I didn't know how to do, I go, hey, how do you do that? And they would 99. I can't think of the time that someone's like, hey, fuck off. Or, maybe they said I'm busy, but I'll show you in a second. But they've always said, this is how you do it,
Yeah, I've never had a bad experience in the gym, right? Like, the weirdest thing you get is when you're working out and you turn around and you're just suddenly face to face with someone. You go, right? But like, that's the worst part about being in the gym, in my opinion.
Or the plate sliding off the bar. It happens. It's happened to me. I tried to bench too
or
much.
Or you drop it and it makes that really loud clash, and then the entire gym just turns to like, what the hell was that, right? Everything happens, but it's all normal. What were some of your favorite exercises? Because I'm actually genuinely curious. Like, what are some things that you just don't miss doing in the gym, no matter what routine it is?
Well, I have a 7-day split, so I wouldn't say.
A 7-day split, Jesus. Consistency, that's the key, as you said.
I have some arm workouts. So an arm workout for biceps, I'll say, that I don't see many people do, that I think is like one of the best in any regard. So I ruptured my bicep tendon in 2013. So one of the exercises that they had me do was with, like, I don't know if you know an easy curl bar, but basically it's like the flat bar, but it's curved. So your
with
wrists
like a W or whatever.
Yeah. Your wrists don't get jarred up. So what I do is that one of the things about the smaller body parts is that you should work on not just the weight or the exercise, but the angle that you're moving. So I will do bicep curls, just standing bicep curls with the easy curl bar, but I'll do it like not my shoulder length, or my arms are shoulder side above my shoulders, and then I'll do one where my arms are wide, and I'll do one where my arms are close, so my hands are close. So I go from like
little
inside,
bits,
and I do 10 10 10 type of thing. And that one I don't see many people do, but that one is why my biceps look the way they look, because I get a full stretch, and they grow really fast with that one, because I'm hitting the two bicep heads, and then doing a different type of angle to hit it from the forearm differently too. So that one I don't see many people do. I would say that's a favorite.
I'm definitely going to ask you to write that down after this, so I can take it to the gym and work on it myself, because I like arm workouts. They're my favorite. I don't like working my core. Like, working my core is probably like the least favorite thing in the world. Like, I'd rather like eat liver than work my core. I don't know what it is. My core is garbage. But like, for me, I like using the easy curl bar on the preacher curl machine. Like, that's probably my favorite bicep workout. I like that. But I also like that one where there's like a stick and like it's got a string and it attaches to a weight and you gotta like spin it. It's like all forearm.
For forearms, yeah. I love doing that one too.
That's my favorite exercise, because the burn in a forearm is my favorite burn that I get, right? It's the only burn I ever get, so.
That's something. Forearm is actually something people neglect. They don't think that's part of a workout, but it's definitely not. You can tell the people that neglect forearm, because like, if you start training your forearms just as you train your biceps and your triceps, you'll notice your arm will probably put on like an inch or two fairly quickly.
I'll give you my reason for enjoying the forearm workout, and this is like a total cop-out. It's because it's probably the least fatty part of my body, so it's the thing that I'm going to see the most results in, right? So like, my forearm, it's fine. Like, I actually have forearm muscles. It looks good, but it's the only part of my body that does, so that's why I'm like, I love working my forearms. Yours is much nicer still. I'll give you that. Yours is still better. Jesus. What about in the kitchen, though? Like, what are you eating to try to maintain something like this, right? Because, like, there's a guy like me. I like milk. I want to consume days and days and pounds of ice cream all at one time. Like, how do you stay, like, because it's really, I know that going to the gym is super important, but, like, if you want to stay healthy, it's all in the kitchen, right? So how do you stay consistent with that?
It's weird. So I pre-prep my meals. I'm gonna make sure that things are like, so I don't get too hung up over counting my calories and stuff like that. But this goal falls back in the whole been doing this for so long is that I have made like my normal habit of eating is very much like what somebody would say is a strict bodybuilding habit, just not measured. But it's still, I made it my habit. I've slowly changed my eating habits. So like I wake up in the morning and I'm having like oatmeal and protein is my first meal. So I'm getting a high carb and I'm getting a lot of protein to start my day kind of thing.
But you're not weighing it. You're not calculating the macros specifically. You just know approximately what you need.
A cup of oatmeal and 2 scoops of protein type of thing. And then I'll do like my breakfast meal, which is usually like something like a couple eggs, depending on how I'm feeling, some type of meat. So I'm thinking in terms of, okay, my first meal is carb or protein. My second meal needs to be carbs, protein, fats. My third meal needs to be protein, fats. My fourth meal needs to be carb, protein, fats. My fifth meal needs to be protein and fats. I'm losing track. And my sixth meal needs to be, I like having it just be protein because it's before I go to bed.
So you're just like eating turkey sticks before bed kind of thing. You're just
something like that. Yeah, I do a shake. It's the easiest way. I still shake.
I gotta say, it's impressive when you say you're like, I work a 7-day split and I do 6 meals a day. I think, there's when you say consistency, that's a lot of consistency right there that you need to keep up with.
My split is like arms, so like biceps, triceps, forearms, chest, quads. So that's 3. 4th day is back. 5th day is shoulders. 6th day would be hamstrings, and then 7th day do core and cardio.
Okay, so you don't do you do very light cardio as a warm up prior to your weight and stuff?
Yeah, I do 10 minutes of the Stairmaster always. I don't even count it as anything. I do it just to warm up. That's not counted towards any cardio or anything. Yeah, I'd say that's actually super important to warm up before. Man, I didn't for so long, and once I started to, I can't not. So like that 10-minute warm up is a requirement. If I don't do that warm up, I'm not working out. Period. So
I'm with you. I like to spend. Actually, what I do is I sit on like the exercise bike and I pull out my phone and I play chess while I just kill my legs. And I just play like 3 games of chess. I usually lose 3 games of chess because I'm trying to work out at the same time.
Exactly.
But it's great. I kill the time, and then by the end of it, I've got a good sweat going. I'm like, okay, now I can go and work out. So this will be perfect.
Exactly.
But crazy. I gotta say, the absolute insanity, though. I totally admirable because like I've said, you're probably the most solid looking person around Alberta wrestling. So there
Thanks.
you go. All right, next question for you. All right, who would your dream match be against? Alive, dead, past, present, it doesn't matter.
So there's a couple answers, but I will just take the route Chris Benoit.
Yeah. Go back in time. He was such a talented wrestler. When you go back and actually watch his matches,
I can't change how I felt before that day. It would, and if I could bring him back, it'd be even more. Just because they'd be all back. But yeah, I'd have to say him just because he was my favorite for so long in 2005 and 4. I can't change that. Like I'd like to wrestle tons of guys, Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels for sure. But I bet I would boil it down. It would be him.
It would be Chris Benoit first, right? Yeah. It's one of those hard ones, right? Because like as a kid, like I respected him so much as a wrestler, right? But then it just became hard to. Everything else just made it so difficult, right?
Yeah.
But like,
and then that's the thing. You're asking me, who to wrestle. Like if I'm just viewing it as I'm just wrestling them, and that's that. Yeah.
Well, you can learn so much in the ring from a person like Chris Benoit, right? Because like even people like Kurt Angle said that like nobody has ever been able to match his intensity in the ring other than Chris Benoit. He's like Chris Benoit had like this natural, amazing energy in the ring. He was such a professional and like legit too. Like Kurt Angle would talk about, it's like, I'm an Olympic gold wrestler and that guy would wrestle me and he would win in a lot of occasions, right? Like it's like, damn, right? Like that guy's got some talent. Here's a fun one from Cheesy Bum 1988. I know WWE guys and AEW guys have issues with fans stepping over the line and inserting themselves into wrestlers' lives. Does this happen on the indie level, and how do you approach the fans if this happens?
Yes, it does. It happens with people that when you meet them, you realize why, something might not mentally be all there. Unfortunately, these are the people that usually like will involve themselves in our lives. Like, when me and Kat got married, we didn't really get too public about it. We weren't that type. I'm not that type of person.
Right.
But some fans were asking her for wedding photos, and it kind of I don't know why, but it bothered me because these people don't know us other than they had watched us wrestle on a show and they wanted to see pictures of my family. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't know why. They're not ones we post. Like if we posted, that's
Right.
different. They
Yeah.
wanted
Like that's like
So,
on Instagram. That's
not
where
a
your
big-
public
yeah.
life goes, kind of a thing. Right?
yeah. So it's not a big deal, but things like that. But there's been worse. There's been a lot of cases. Not a lot of cases. Sounds bad. Couple cases where we've had fans that will involve themselves, like send numerous amounts of messages, gifts, tell people they're dating you, send messages to your wife to say they're dating them, and it's like, oh, we've never met, like stuff like that. Very, very bizarre.
That's got to
people.
be so weird to have to deal with something like that, right?
Bizarre
Because-
people like that. It doesn't happen all the time, but yeah, it happens at every level, and it's always, it's always people that have something going on in their life, or they're not all mentally there, or they need help and they're not getting the right help. It's always the same. It's not just like, someone you work with and all of a sudden, oh, they're stalking a wrestler. It's not just you would suspect already after meeting them.
You're just like, okay, this makes a lot more sense immediately, right?
Yeah,
well, a lot of people, like online, like they will talk a big game, but then, like when you see them in person, they tend to back up quite a lot, right? That's why I never talk a big game, because I mean, look at me. Here's the fun question from Fabeskin62. Have you ever had a match with heavy metal? Now, obviously, you grew up, you trained obviously a little bit with him, so I'm assuming you've had matches.
Yep.
But have you had anything recently?
The last match that we had was 2019. I've wrestled him like 30 times. Yeah, we broke in together, went around all over Canada together. So yeah, I've 20 to 25 times I wrestled him. We've been tag partners. My last match was in Regina. God, it's all come back to me now. For one of HW's last shows, and yeah, it was a blast actually. He's a guy that we could not talk about anything, and I could get in the ring and wrestle him for an hour, easy, and like, let alone talking about stuff, and then have it be like really entertaining and good. Even today, I could right now stand up and go wrestle him for an hour right now, and just from
no planning, just you get in the ring, you call the match, you know what to do.
Yeah, and I mean, we've wrestled each other enough, and we know, and we also have the benefit. And see, I can't do that with anybody, so it's not like it's a big deal. But we have the benefit and the privilege that we train together too. So on top of we work together so many times, we also know each other's secrets and movements and footwork and all
the
that
core
stuff.
fundamentals that come with training
exactly.
together, like how you'd pivot around specific situations, those same things that you learn, right? Down to
what
small
they're thinking,
nuances, right?
Exactly.
Well, I got to say, I would love to see something like that here in Alberta, because I've never seen that match personally. And I mean, in the time that I broke into the wrestling scene, you were definitely working more for PWA at the time, and he was definitely RCW. Yeah. And at that time, there was definitely there was no talent sharing. I love where things have happened to these days. I love that there's different people wrestling for different promotions. I think that personally, it's great for the wrestlers. They get booked and all that kind of stuff. I would love to see certain promotions run more shows, not just like you said in Saskatchewan, but even here in Alberta, there's definitely promotions I would love to see run again. But I do love the fact that there is a lot going on right now. Top Talent's doing great stuff up there in Edmonton. The LPW, RCW is constantly going around. Can-Am is all around Alberta. CWE's moving through constantly, right?
Can-Am's got the show in Back Alley August 10th. Tomorrow, Can-Am does, so we'll be heading to Calgary to wrestle. Is it August 10th tomorrow? Well, it's tomorrow.
Yes, so, you got it, August 10th.
Yeah. There's a show at the Back Alley. So, I'm jealous that I have a job and a life and stuff, because when I was wrestling full time and as Pan was paying my bills, I had to travel so far for my matches. I was wrestling so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday every week for probably 9 months, and more than that or 2. But I would have to always go drive to Regina, and then they would pay for my bus to Saskatoon. Then I would hop in with somebody in Saskatoon, and we go to Prince Albert, and I have to find my way back to Edmonton. So getting those matches in was tedious. So now guys can just get 30 matches a month if they want. So it's great.
I love seeing the
jealous
scene, especially get all these different dates and everything like that. So
yeah, it might get a little busy, but man, if we can get the talent out here, Alberta's. I love it. I love wrestling here. So we just need to get if we have so many shows, we just need to get some more talent here. So we got Top Talent bringing a lot of new guys. LPW's bringing a lot of guys. That's what I like. They're both bringing in so many unique talents that would never come here otherwise.
Right, it's building the scene. I think that's an amazing thing that they're doing. And even then, I know that you wrestle a little bit for Can-Am. I like to actually consider that my little local promotion, because they wrestle here in my hometown. I can walk to there.
We're having a show there August 20th.
Yes, unfortunately, that is the day that I will be in Vancouver for a show.
Of course.
Just randomly.
Oh, for any,
yeah, I get to
NEW?
go up to an NEW for my first NEW show,
there
so
you
I'm
go.
super excited for that. It'll be at the and it's also like my old hometown. Like
Yeah,
I went
exactly.
to Vancouver. I went to college in Vancouver, so like it's my old stomping ground. So that'll be pretty.
I consider the Strathmore a house show. So
Yeah, it's usually that's pretty much what Strathmore is. But it's my house show. Do you know what I mean? That's my WWE live
in your house. Yeah,
exactly. All right, here's a question from Mike the Ref. Have you heard from Lola? She lost the cat in PWA and then disappeared.
Yeah, she's put out some feelers, but no one's feeling her back.
There you go. We'll look at some information there. I don't really know who Lola is. I feel horrible asking this. Who is Lola? Oh, wait a second.
Well,
wait, actually, I remember who Lola is. It's all coming back to me now. This Lola was Bobby Sharp, right?
Show. It was a Halloween show. No, it was a student I trained.
Oh, no, it was. Okay, never mind.
Surprisingly a lot like me.
Okay. It was someone that you've been training looks a little bit. Okay, well, hopefully we could see Lola out here again one of these days. Because obviously, being trained by the great Bobby Sharp, she's got some serious skills.
Exactly.
And quite the jawline, I'm assuming, like aggressive.
She shaved,
I gotta say, honestly, and this is gonna be my weird thing to say. Ever since the first time I saw you, I've been so jealous of your jawline. I just like I have this fake beard because I don't have one, right? Like I just have this. I was like, Bobby Sharp's got one of those like great like '80s villain jawlines that I just really want.
That's right. I look like the bad guy from Kindergarten Cop.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. If you had a little bit darker hair, or if you had darker hair, there you go. Well, I always kind of thought about like you always had a little bit of like an '80s like villain look going to you, which I always thought was a fantastic look. Right?
I just so I had Kayla got a jacket. So there's an anime show Naruto. I'm sure a lot of people know about it, but. Yeah. So there's the Akatsuki, which are the bad guys, and they have a jacket or whatever, and a fan gave her the jacket. Yeah, the black and red jacket. So the fan gave her the jacket. And I usually wear it around the house because it's like I like being in my underwear and it keeps me warm. So I wear it like it was a robe. But then I started like zipping it up. And I was like, man, like the fit of the jacket I like how it looks. It looks cool. So I thought I would take it with me to Can-Am. And I wore it at the Can-Am show. And I was asking the guys, like, what did you think? And they're like, oh, you look like a villain in that jacket. Nobody knew what it was from. So I'm like, well, I think I can get away with it. And I wore it to the ring and it ended up getting really over. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I got to get some of those more jackets made for me to be more of a villain.
You know what? If you do that, you get it in like silver or something like that, and you get like big like black glasses. You could totally you'd be perfect. I would love something like that. Just walk in, be the coolest guy in the room, total asshole, right? Just smacking like minions around. Oh, I would love that.
Gru. Yeah, he called me out with like Gru. What's his name? Gru? Is that the guy from Minions? He said I look like him.
I don't think you look like Gru, but
it was because I had that.
Was that when you had
the jacket on? Yeah, I had the jacket on.
So with the okay, just like a big old jacket. All right, perfect. All right, here's the fun one. This is a question from one of our longtime fans because she likes to ask this. From JJ, crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Smooth.
Smooth. Do you have a brand preference? Like, are you a Jif or are you like?
I don't really like peanut butter, so I don't know.
No. Oh, okay. No. So you're like smooth is the choice. Well, yeah. So health reasons. I gotta ask this.
Kraft? Yeah, I guess Kraft.
Kraft, yeah. Yeah, that's the bear. What is your treat as a person with such a strict diet and like what do you make? Like, do you make like just like tons of like protein ice cream and just like how do you survive?
It's a struggle, I tell you.
I really gotta know because like honestly, the diet is the hardest part for me.
Yeah. Honestly, lately it's been pancakes, but I definitely I'll add protein to everything. Protein pancakes. It makes me feel better about it. My body's able to process the carbs and the sugars better when I have more proteins. At least that's my theory. I'm pretty sure that's right, but I might be wrong. And it's working for me. If I was to say, it's funny, never been chocolate, really. I mean, I'll eat chocolate here and there. Snickers, I like. See, everybody has this mentality that I don't eat. I eat super clean, like you just said, but I'll have not a Snickers a day, but a Snickers post-workout is probably one of the best things you can have when you get the sugar rush and the protein from the nuts and stuff. So I'll have tons of Snickers. So I still eat stuff like that. I have lots of ice cream. I just, I don't want to say gorge myself, but I find I'd rather get rid of it in a day. And then you find at least you get your fix. I'm the type where I can eat it all in a day and then be good for 10 or 15 days. And not
okay. So you approve of the cheat day then. You're like, cheat days are necessary.
Yeah. And I would say I'm like, because I'm not super strict, I don't have cheat days, but every so often I crave something and I don't hold back. I'll go to Klondike days and have the deep fried Oreos, which we have.
Yeah, you'll just gorge 2,000 calories one day. But like if you're doing the right thing 99.5% of the time, it doesn't really matter what you do with that 0.5 as long as just don't kill yourself with it.
Yeah, yeah. And then I can use. I find that when I do have big meals like that, I always have real strong workouts. So I always plan that if I'm going to have a day where I'm going to cheat, the next day I'm going to make sure I can do something that would require like a lot of heavy lifting, and it works out in my favor. So although I like. If I was to say, the one thing I eat that I should never eat would be salt and vinegar chips.
Oh, those are so good, though.
They have, I shouldn't eat them. They're one of the worst things for me. I pay for it dearly later, but I love them so much. I eat a whole bag at a time.
I'm with you on this. I love salt and vinegar chips. For me, I'm just a big Old Dutch fan. Like, for me, Old Dutch is the best chip. Like, I always gotta go with Old Dutch. So I'm with you. Oh yeah, just get it in the box, the little two bags, right? Like I loved it as a kid. That's how I did it as a kid. That and ketchup chips. You can't have ketchup chips from Lay's. That stuff's garbage. You got to get the Old Dutch ketchup chips.
No, Lay's salt and vinegar was like you might get one of 6 might be really good, but the rest of the time they just taste like someone left them out.
Yeah.
So I don't like Lay's. No.
No, I'm the same when it comes to Lay's. And I got a question for you. So you were saying the Snickers, the peanuts are really good for you post workout because of the protein and stuff. So what you're trying to say is if I had my post workout eat more, that would be just as good, right? Because it's just like covered in like caramel and peanuts.
Honestly, if you're like literally just done some physical exertion and you're not like cooled down before your cool down, you'll find that you'll have some type of chocolate, some type of cheat, like a chocolate bar, cheat meal, a cupcake, a muffin, or something like that. Your body will process it the way it's supposed to process it and use it for energy, and you end up burning that away very quickly. And you'll probably get a pump, or at least feel like full immediately after. Then you want to try and see the thing about the protein is post-workout protein isn't as important as just a post-workout fuel.
Right.
Could be anything. Protein at your next meal then would have to make up for that post-workout no protein. But post-workout, I wouldn't say like go and eat like a cake or something. But if you can get something in that little 5-minute window when you're still sweating, go for it. You'll find that your body will burn it off a little bit quicker and effectively.
I feel like I feel like I should just be asking you like a million questions because like you're just like a gym guru by the sounds of this. Actually, I have a last quick question here for you for the gym stuff, and then I'll be done with the gym. What about drinking? Like, do you just drink pure water? Like, how do you keep like the sanity in terms of just liquids?
Yeah, I make obviously pre-workout BCAAs with water, but I just drink water. People say I drink beer too. I drink lots of beer, but
this is Alberta after all. So.
Yeah, but, I say lots of beer, but that's not true. Not anymore, anyway, or not any less. But no. But when it comes to that, a lot of people say it's crazy, but I don't like pop or juice or anything or milk or any of that. That's one of my saving graces where I've been lucky because that's a hard hurdle for people to overcome is cutting out pop or cutting out coffee or cutting out
I could give up coffee, I could give up like juices and all that kind of stuff. For me it's milk. I drink so much milk. It's my
I know. I used to too, and I mean it was weird. It wasn't like I just snapped my fingers and stopped. I gradually had to stop. And then I just reached the point where it's like now I crave water. Now it's like I prefer a little bit warmer water. A lot of people like ice water sometimes when I'm hot, but for the most part, I crave water. I'll drink so one of those 4-liter jugs gets drank. So I'd say about 6 liters every single day for sure.
Nice. There, So do you have like a water cooler upstairs? So like every 3 days you just have to refill.
I guess I have water cooler at work that I have to refill every single week. Yeah.
There you go. Well, at least your work is paying for those ones, right?
Yeah, and I'm the only one who uses it. So however many liters are in there, I use in a week at work. Plus, I have my jug.
I hope your work isn't listening. They're like, we got to start stopping the expense of these waters here.
They gave it to me, so
there you go. Absolutely.
Dumb. Yeah.
There you go. All right, well, we'll finish up with this one. So one of the fun questions that I like to finish up here. What were some of your favorite video games growing up? Because I know you said you played some of the WCW games, but like we grew up around the same time. I feel like we had a very similar childhood. I feel like you were a big fan of the N64 like I was. Like, what were some of your games growing up that really like shaped you up?
I'm as surprising as it is, and I still don't really tell many people, and I don't know why. I'm more of a JRPG fan, so I like role-playing games.
That's
amazing. I like Final Fantasy.
Nice.
I like those type of games. My favorite games are, I don't know if you know what the Tales series
Tales,
are.
Symphonia, Tales. Oh, of course,
Yep.
man.
So those are my favorite games for sure. Super Nintendo was one I grew up with. So like, yeah, the Chrono Triggers, the Earthbounds, Final Fantasy 3 or
Oh,
6 or whatever. So those
these
ones.
titles you're dropping are making me very
Yeah,
happy as a retro gamer.
I have a. I guess I really can't go get it. It makes no sense, but I do have. It's on my Facebook somewhere. I have a collection where I have like. So I don't really collect many things, but I do collect like a couple of small things here and there. My Super Nintendo collection is I have like the boxed games that I had when I was younger. So it's like the boxed Earthbound and Chrono Trigger and
Ooh, wow,
Final
nicely
Fantasy
done.
2 and 3, and then I have like the Japanese Super Famicom version. So that's kind of like my pride and joy. Yeah, I mean, I don't find too many people that are into it. So, but JRPGs are my absolute favorite. That's all I really play. Wrestling games I stopped playing after Brock Lesnar one, SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain. I think, and I never was into Street Fighter or any of the wrestling games just for that. You play it as a novelty, and that was really how I, you know what I mean. Like I was saying with the WCW game, I just went through the roster. I don't even really remember playing it, but yeah, those JRPGs are where I go.
I gotta
That's
ask
the way
because my favorite video game of all time is a JRPG as well. But I'm curious if you played it because it wasn't a Super Nintendo; it was on the Sega side of things. Did you ever play the Shining Force series?
I have not. I have heard of them though.
Shining
You're going to
Force
say Sega. I thought you were going to say
2.
Lunar for a second.
No, Shining Force 2 to this day has been my favorite video game ever made. It's beaten out StarCraft, Counter-Strike, all these games that I've played countless hours into. I will always play Shining Force 2.
What do you say? It's for the Sega Saturn?
It's for the Genesis. It's for definitely more for the Genesis. Yeah.
Okay.
I played that originally. The reason I ever played that game to begin with was because I was one of those kids that I grew up a Genesis kid over a Super Nintendo, but we had this thing called Sega Channel, which like you could connect a coaxial to, it connect to the internet, and you could play games, like kind of like how digital streaming works these days. But it was on the Genesis.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and that would have been mid-90s or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So
crazy.
Like every month they would refresh the game, so you could always have like a new series of games. And I played Shining Force one day, and like I just remember that month I was like gone. I was like, this is the best game. So I understand the love of JRPGs 100%.
Yeah, I love just the guy. I love getting immersed in the story and then following the lore and stuff, and just yeah, definitely them. I mean, some people just don't like the sitting and then the grinding, but I love it. It's something I really enjoy.
No, well, I love the grind, honestly. I honestly like the idea of promoting your character from one class to another class and stuff like that. It's the best to me. Now, I have a question for you. Actually, this is the last question that came through from the chat. Have you heard about Machete's McDonald's order?
Like Tony Machete?
Tony Machete, yes. One of the most famous things to come out of this podcast was this McDonald's order that he's had. Okay, so I'm going to, as a health person, let me kind of read out to you specifically what he's kind of usually orders. And make sure I'm not trying to mess this up here. So I know there is a cream egg McFlurry. There's like a 10-pack of chicken nuggets. Oh, man, I got to get this whole thing. Somebody's going to write this down here for me. But, like, Mars was telling us, he went on for like 10 minutes. Okay, wait. People are Shining Force 2. I prefer Golden Sun series. Golden Sun series was also fantastic. I will get this list. I feel bad, but that you haven't heard this order. But like basically, Tony goes on for like 15 minutes. His order after a show is like a $40 meal, and he eats all of it. Like I don't understand because he's one of those guys who also is very good physiqued and like takes care of himself. But
sometimes, they so maybe he's fasting, so then that means don't eat anything, and then when you do eat, you're eating a 3,000-4,000 calorie meal once a day.
Honestly, I think that's where I want to be because, like,
if you look at Ricky Steamboat, 1984, 85, and look at his build, that's what he did. He would not eat anything all day, and then I believe at 11 or 12 in the afternoon, we'd go to a Chinese buffet. And I've heard this straight from him, so he could be full of shit, but he didn't seem like he is. He would go to a Chinese food buffet and eat like until he could not move. And he goes, like, it would be like 3,000, 4,000 calories. And that's all he would do. And then you look back at him, you're like, nah, you could have like just dialed back some water and probably stood on an Olympic bodybuilding stage and placed okay. So yeah, there might be something to it. I can't try it. I don't have that willpower. I've done the meals throughout the day for so long that would be such a shock to my body. Maybe it'll work like in the short term, but I couldn't keep it consistent. No way.
I mean, I used to be better at only eating like once a day. Like if I ate in the morning, I would feel kind of sick, so I would just like hit all my calories like before I would go to bed, which didn't always work. But all right, we've got this order written out here, okay?
And never eat before you go to sleep.
And unfortunately, that's like the thing that I do the worst. Like that's when I'm the hungriest is like 2 a.m. Like that's when my body's like wake up and eat something.
Even if you're having like it's a good idea to have like there's certain types of protein shakes that you can take before you that are designed to be taken before you go to bed, and they help with your digestive system. The reason you don't eat before you go to bed is because it's bad for your digestive system. It's not because you'll get fatter or anything. It's just your body's wanting to rest, and you're throwing a bunch of fuel on the fire, and it's like, oh, I guess I got to burn this, So don't eat before bed.
I'll work on that. Honestly, I got to do better. I haven't even eaten dinner yet. Like my meal of the day is starting to I haven't had it yet because I ended up working a full day. All right, we have the McDonald's order here for you, and then we'll be done because we're about to run out of time again here. So it's 3 McDoubles, but each McDouble has an extra patty, 3 junior chickens, a poutine that he didn't have at that time that got replaced with 10 chicken nuggets, and a cream egg McFlurry, as well as an ice water without the ice, which is specifically what he had ordered.
So what I would tell him is because I would get 4 double hamburgers because they're $2.99. Throw away the buns, so then you have an 8-patty hamburger, 2 junior chickens with everything on them. You put them on the bottom and the top of the 8-patty hamburger, and then I would order large fries. So that's what I would say he should get. That meal right there.
So what you're saying is if somebody buys you this meal and brings a camera in, will you make a video of you eating this gigantic monstrosity?
I had that meal maybe like 5 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay. So this isn't like something new for you. You're like, no, this is pretty common.
4 double hamburgers because they're $2.99 and they're 4 patties. Throw away all the buns, and then 2 junior chickens. Take the chickens, and then you keep 1 bun on each side, and squish it together and drip the grease out, gross everybody out.
And then just eat this brick of protein, essentially. Yeah.
Basically, like, oh God, I can't remember what it is, but I think each patty is 110 or 210 calories and 9 grams of protein or something like that. So it ends up being like a fairly, like,
I remember when I worked
for
out.
Ground beef, but
I remember when I worked out. People said that a McDouble after your workout is actually a pretty good thing because it's not got the worst fat and protein. It's got high protein. It's not the worst fat, and it's relatively cheap. So a lot of people will go to McDonald's right after a workout just for like a single burger.
And the thing is, it's like it's not the McDonald's like their bread and the sugars in their bread are bad for you because your sugar levels will spike and stuff, and then you will probably get fat from the bread. Pretty quickly, but really when you think of just the meat other than the grease, because that's where it really boils down to. If you have McDonald's post-workout, your blood's flowing, you probably won't clog your arteries. If you're just eating McDonald's, even if you're throwing away the bread, you're probably going to clog your arteries, and even if you're in shape, you're going to die of a heart attack
eventually, right?
So the once in a while, people are so scared, but once in a while it's not that bad. It's when you start falling into that habit of consistently doing it that it's bad.
Well, Bobby, dude, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really had a blast. Thank you for answering all our questions. This was a lot of fun. Where can people find you here before we get disconnected?
So Twitter, Lion Warrior AB. That's me directly. I have Facebook, which is facebook.com/Lion Warrior Sharp. That's where you'll find all my dates, all my shows and stuff. I'll post a lot more stuff on that to where you can come and watch me wrestle. And I'll have lots of dates coming up across Canada. And then I have an Instagram, which is Bobby Should Get Insta. Long story, maybe I'll tell it. But Instagram, I just post pictures and dates as well. But basically, Facebook, if you want to see what I'm doing. Twitter, if you want to talk to me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bobby. I hope you have yourself a wonderful day, buddy. Thank you again.
You too. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good night.
A wonderful night. A big thank you once again to Bobby Sharp for joining me here today. Seriously, what a great interview it was, asking him all those different questions and getting to know more about him, his story, how he got into the world of wrestling and all those cool little stories in it since hearing about his recovery from hip surgery. Like I said, I saw his 2 matches over the last week. Obviously, this interview was recorded about a month ago, but over the last week, I saw him both wrestle for Top Talent and Love Pro Wrestling, and he did so good in both of them. I know he just had a match, like 4 or 5 matches in a row. He, like, legitimately on fire, and he's so good. So if you guys watch more Bobby Sharp stuff, because legit, one of the best there is. Much love to all of you here today. If you liked what you heard, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment below, hit the notification bell, anything that you can. You guys can go check us out on social media. So go check out Bobby Sharp. You can follow me on Twitter at Wrestlesode. That is where I am most active, but I also do have a Facebook page where I post my weekly content as well. So I'll talk to you all very soon, and you have yourself a wonderful day.